Howdy, it's Jim Morado, and real quick, this is late July 2024, going to the Kentucky Reptile Zoo in Slade, Kentucky. I've put up another video, pretty much of just snakes, if you want to check that out. But I wanted to talk for about a minute here. We're about to see a tortoise show, just a nice little show. Had an intern do, her name was Abby, and she talked about a tortoise, and it was very sweet. And we really enjoyed it, and I just wanted to intro it. By the way, there were a couple of kids here playing in the dirt with rocks and sticks. Reminded me of me and my cousin growing up. God bless them. A lot of kids these days do not know the joys of sticks, rocks, and dirt. And I thought that was great that they were doing it the old way there. Anyway, check out this tortoise show. Let me know what you think.
Hi, so my name is Abby. I'm an intern here, and I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about this guy. Does anybody who I haven't talked to already know what this guy might be? Does anybody have a guess? What do you think? A tortoise? That is such a good job, yes. So this is Bomb. His name is Bomb. If I turn him around, you can see his shell kind of splays out a little bit. Kind of looks like his shell is exploding. That's why his name is Bomb. But he is a tortoise, so he's a gopher tortoise. So these guys are pretty cool. They're one of 5 species of tortoises found in the United States, and they're the only ones found actually east of the Mississippi River. So they're not quite up this way, but more down towards Florida, Georgia, that kind of area where it's nice and warm and sunny. These guys like that nice warm environment.
Yeah!
Yeah. If you guys have any questions or anything, just let me know too, okay? Just shout them out. But I'll walk them around a little bit as I talk just to let you guys get a close look to start. But he's a real sweetheart. That is a great question. So we really don't know how old he is. Bomb, he came to us as an adult. And if you don't know exactly when they're born, you can't really tell with reptiles.
Can I pet it?
Unfortunately, I can't let you touch it just for safety reasons, but I wish. But yeah, so we think he's probably at least probably 15, 20 years old. So he came to us about 10 years ago as an adult. And these guys reach adulthood at around 10 years old. And so other than that, we're not sure because we don't know when this guy was born. So this is about as big as he'll get. I'll put him on the ground for a second, let you watch him walk around a bit. But like I said, this is about as big as he'll ever get. He might do a little bit of growing. But these guys can get anywhere from 9 to 11 inches in their shell length and weigh about 10 pounds when they're full grown. As you can see, he's quicker than you might think a tortoise would be, but he's not super quick either, so. He's got things to do, he likes to say. I might have woken him up from a little nap, so he might not be too happy with me, but... So, like I said, this guy's a gopher tortoise, and as you can kind of see,
He's fast enough.
well, let me switch it this way. When you look at his feet, you can tell that they're different, right? He's got these big flat ones on the back, and these nice pointed ones in the front. Does anybody have any idea what these front ones might be used for? Digging? Yes, yeah. So that's where they get their name gopher tortoises, is they dig lots of tunnels, basically. These huge burrows is what they're called. And these guys can dig tunnels anywhere from 40 feet long, 10 feet deep, that kind of thing. Huge. And they spend about 80% of their time in these tunnels. So just wandering around, escaping the heat or staying warm in the winter, depending on the season. And another really cool thing about these guys is they're actually considered a keystone species. So what that means is basically that they have this really big impact on the environment around them. So other animals, plants, things like that. And the reason they're considered a keystone species is because of these burrows. So it's been documented over 350 different species have been found in these guys' burrows. Both taking shelter, hiding from predators, staying out of the heat just like these guys, or even hibernating, depending on where at in the range they are. And so lots and lots of different animals all rely on this guy to dig his nice big tunnels. So at any time, there may be tons of species living in his burrows with him, including, if you've heard kind of down south, the indigo snake is actually an endangered species, and those guys are found in these burrows too. And so it just goes to show that just one little guy like this can have such a huge impact on his environment around him. And so like I said, this guy's found mostly where it's nice and warm, Florida, that kind of thing, and where the soil is nice and sandy and good for digging these burrows, because this soil wouldn't probably be too great for him to dig through, but for those of you just coming in, this is Bomb. He's a gopher tortoise. He's a pretty cool guy. But yeah, so I always like to talk about his different feet and how they look different, and it serves a purpose too. And as I walk him around again, let you get a closer look, I'll let you take a nice look at his mouth too. So a turtle or tortoise's mouth is called a beak, so similar to a bird. But just look at the shape and maybe the size of that, and I might ask a few questions in a second. It's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So big.
He is.
How old?
We're not sure. So you can't really tell with reptiles unless you know when they were born. He's at least probably 20, just because we've had him for about 10 years and he came to us as an adult. But other than that, who
I think
knows?
mine's like about 13.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
He was want to know how does the turtle live?
How does the turtle live?
What is it?
Turtles like eat.
Is that what does he eat? That's a good question. So as I was passing him around, he took a look at his little mouth. It's called a beak. You can kind of maybe take some guesses as to what he might eat. So does anybody have any guesses? What you got?
Like lettuce, like
Lettuce, that's a good one. All right, what about you? Leaves, yeah. What's your guess?
I don't know what turtles.
Oh, okay, that's all right. Any other ones? Go for it.
Flowers.
Flowers, yeah.
I was gonna say a dandelion.
Dandelions, those too. Yeah, so these guys, their beak is nice and flat like that because they do mostly eat plants. So leaves, lettuce, everything you guys said and more. So these guys eat over 300 different species of plants, leaves, things like that.
He can eat trees.
He might, if he could get up there. These guys aren't real big climbers though, so. But they do, and you mentioned dandelions, so one of our other tortoises up there, the marginated tortoise, his name is Artie, and we always joke when we're out foraging for his food, because in the summertime we have all this greenery around us, we might as well pick stuff for him. And so we always joke that his favorite is dandelions, so if you don't pick him, he's not going to eat the rest of his food. So we always give him a couple dandelions just to make him happy, because, you know, he's the boss, not us. But yeah, Bomb here, he'll eat basically anything green, anything he decides looks tasty. And that's where that nice mouth shape comes into play. Because if you think about maybe like a snapping turtle, we've got one up there, in giants. If you look at their mouths, it's really sharp, pointy, and those guys aren't eating many leaves and things like that. They eat mostly fish, other small animals, things like that. So they need that sharp beak to be able to catch their prey. But this guy, his prey isn't going anywhere. It's just growing, so he doesn't need anything to pull or tear. So that's why his mouth is nice and flat like that. And so a big thing we say in science is form follows function, which just basically means that the way things are shaped or the way they look are a good indicator of what they're used for. So like how his beak isn't very sharp and his legs are very pointy and look like shovels, that's a good idea of what they are used for, things like that. So another cool thing about these guys, set them back down, let them walk around, is, so you might have heard that like sea turtles and things like that have temperature dependent eggs, which means like if they're laid and it's a certain temperature, they might be more male or more female. And these guys are the same. So if a mama tortoise like this, she'll dig a nice hole in a nice sunny area in the sand, usually near the entrance of their burrows. She'll dig a hole and they'll lay anywhere from like 5 to 9 eggs. And then if it's super warm in the soil that she laid, then the eggs will tend to hatch out female. But now if it's a cooler environment, cooler soil like that, they'll tend to be male. So it's a really neat thing that happens with these guys. And like I said, you might have heard it with sea turtles and other things like that. But once these guys are hatched out, they are on their own from day one. So these guys don't show any parental care or anything like that. Mama turtle just lays her eggs and moves on. But these guys, they're pretty neat. They got this nice big defense mechanism on their backs. So their shells are a really good protection for them. And unlike other turtles and tortoises and stuff, they can't pull all of the way into their shell. He said maybe that rock looked a little tasty, but anyway, so their shells are protection for them, and unfortunately they can't tuck all the way in like our box turtles up there. They're called box turtles because they can pull all the way in and tuck up, and you wouldn't be able to see them. But this guy doesn't have that, so he also has this nice piece right here to protect his neck. It's a nice little a guard, but so when they're little and their shells aren't that big, they're more vulnerable to being eaten by things. And so these guys like to get as big as they can, as quick as they can. Because once they're this size, fewer things can crack open that shell and get to them. So they're a little more protected. But yeah, that's a good question. So the question was, how long do they live? These guys in the wild typically anywhere from 40 to 60 years, but ones in captivity have been recorded to live 90 plus years. So this guy might even outlive me, depending on how stubborn he is, I guess. Any other questions?
They got a lot more bigger than this, or?
This is full grown, so these guys get anywhere from about 9 to 11 inches in their shell and about 10 pounds. So he's full grown. He might grow just a little bit. Reptiles are really cool because they don't stop growing during their lifetimes. They'll grow all the way. That's why like snakes shed their skin and things like that, is to continue growing. These guys will actually even shed parts of their shell. So each of these little sections, it's my favorite word to say, it's called a scoop. And it's just these little sections, and as I walk around I'll kind of let you take a closer look. But you can see it's almost like rings around a tree. And so there is a common misconception that you can like count the rings around a tortoise or turtle shell, just like you could trees, to know like how old they are. But it's not quite that simple. If only it was. But they will kind of shed off pieces of their shell like that, of their scoots. So you see those nice rings around? It's pretty cool.
Is this how big they're gonna get, or no?
So another thing I can talk about is, have anybody ever seen a turtle or tortoise on the road or anything like that? Yeah? Do you guys know what to do when you see one?
Help them.
I have.
Yes, exactly. So that's the biggest thing that I like to point out, is you always want to help them in the direction that they're already going. Because we might not know it, but these guys, they've got plans, they've got things to do, people to see. So if he's walking across this way and you pick him up and turn him, he's just going to turn right back around and cross that road again. So you always want to move a turtle or tortoise or anything in the direction they're going, if you're so inclined to help them across. Because it's a very dangerous game for these little guys to play crossing roads like that, because they don't know how to see cars and stuff like that, so they're going about their own day. So you can always help them. with any turtle or tortoise, you always want to kind of grab them from the back. Watch out for the mouth. We always say that this guy, he probably wouldn't bite me, he wouldn't do anything, but if it has a mouth, it can bite, so you always want to be careful with that. Especially with anything like a snapping turtle or like that are a little more defensive than this guy. But yeah, if you see one, you can always help it across, just be real careful and don't ever remove it from its home, because these guys, they have homes just like me and you, and so you never want to move them to a different place, because then they don't do as good. Any other questions or anything?
Do they live alone in the wild?
Yes, that's a great question. These guys are typically solitary. They will come together during mating season, but for the most part, it's just these guys all by themselves. And that's where those nice burrows come in. They're little homes. They just hang out. When it's nice and warm in their home, they're active year-round. But maybe in kind of the more northern section of their range, they might go into a little bit of a hibernation, or in reptiles it's called brumation, where they just kind of slow everything down, and they might stop eating and they just kind of just rest while it's super cold like that.
Can they survive under 30 degrees, like in the north?
I'm not sure what their temperature range is, because these guys are found more southern than we are here. Our tortoises here, we do put them through a brumation, where we will bring them inside where we can monitor. The temperatures keep them a little warmer than it would get around here. These guys probably aren't the biggest fan of snow, so.
Are they territorial over the burrows?
I'm not sure about with other tortoises or anything like that, but they happily share their homes with other species. So, like I said, over 300 different species have been documented living in these burrows, and they don't seem to mind too much. We kind of compare it to somebody owning an apartment. You just kind of let people stay.
How far can they see?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I'm not super sure. So like, I can walk him around and you can definitely tell that he can kind of see you guys, just because he might pause, take a little peek, look around. But I don't know what that range is. Yeah. How far?
Does he like water?
Yeah, as much as any like terrestrial animal would. These guys, they don't live in water, if that's what you're asking. But they will bathe sometimes, soak, get up some water, that kind of thing. But for the most part, they do spend most of their life on land. He's got a little pool over in his enclosure that sometimes we'll catch him bathing in a little bit, soaking up some sun. But they do mostly get all of their water, like they don't really need to drink a lot of water as long as they're eating enough plants and stuff, because they can survive off of the water content just in those leaves and things like that. So. But sometimes when it's extra dry, nice dip in the pool is nice. So. And another, yeah, he has a little nose. I can walk him around, let you see a little closer. You can see those two little dots by him. That's his little nose. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not quite sure, but they're definitely, he can definitely hear things. They just might not be external ears like ours. But yeah, if you could take a look at his little nose, he's super cute. His little beak almost looks like he's smiling sometimes.
I think he wants to walk.
He definitely does. I like to say he's not really a big fan of being in an airplane like this. He'd rather be on the ground.
I think he wants to walk.
Because these guys, that's all they do. They just walk on the ground. So when he's up in the air, he might be a little nervous.
Oh god.
other questions or anything?
All the sugar.
Well, I won't keep you guys here if you want to go back to looking at exhibits or anything, but I'll also stick around if you guys want to take a closer look, get some pictures, or ask more questions or anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay, bye, Mom.
Why don't we have it?
These little